Here. Once again, artists is 15 Thursday noon/afternoon. So with that, I'd like to give all praises and glory number two to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakah, Kadash, and the Heavenly Father, true name is Yahweh, and so we got to serve Bahashem, the name of Yahweh Shah, I said, Rock City, and this is the book of Matthew 24, verse 7. It's going to be titled outside lesson for the second time. And this is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. So the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, to everything there is a season and a time for every person heaven. So we are in these increasing modern day times and seasons and from heaven. The armies of nations are rising against one another. As I mentioned again previously, I want to mention it once before, we see these economic wars, these nuclear wars getting up between these nations. So we see these political wars, economic wars, sanctions wars, technology wars, oil, especially some oil wars, see back in once again previously, we see it once again. So all these different categories of systems and escalations are here between these nations. So it's a continue to reach. So we're going to have a couple of verses. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. So it says that the time to reign, the time to serve, the time to decide, the time to speak. Right, so we're not going to decide. So the scripture says, this is an officer to put the word. Now we are teaching. Now we're speaking. So this is even if we do these sit down lessons, outside lessons, unless we work around. So we're in the time of speaking of biblical sermons, prophecies, all of this. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 8. It says, so we still live in the time of the Lord, and we still live in the time of HAT, because that's how we take to increase. So Jeremiah 20, verse 8 said, for the fact we see the signs of it. And this is Matthew's, matter of fact, Jeremiah 28, verse 8. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 28, verse 8 reads, it says, prophets I have before thee and before thee of old, prophesy both against your princes and your kingdoms, war, evil, and pestilence. Especially war category, we see that increasing. This is Jeremiah, chapter 28, verse 9. It says, the prophet must prophesy peace when the word of the prophet shall come to pass. Then shall the prophet be known that the Father shall be sick. That's in Ezekiel, chapter 33, verse 1. And this is Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 46. It says, we shall have especially as I know from the category especially as I have economic wars and nuclear wars between these armies and nations, especially with taking out from the past, I would say from February, March, and all the way to the that's why we continue to increase. I think it was yesterday. Trump administration, they made an announcement about having it's called some type of called E-Day or something like that, about a potential hitting Iran with the hardest of economic oppression known to man. Now we're seeing anybody that do any dealings with the Iranians, they're going to get hit with hard economic sanctions. So even the United States, they got allies. If they do dealings with Iran, they're going to get hit with economic sanctions as well too. And that's why I think that that 50% tariffs deal that had passed, but they had paused it. Let you know there's still some tension between Canada and the United States from an economical perspective. We're seeing signs of that. So these are increasing signs about these economic wars and these tensions between these armies of other nations, different nations that's releasing. So this is something that now this is Matthew's, matter of fact, the third chapter. This is a prophet you with. Because you had the current president of the United States, he was trying to make states loose, and that's the United States territory. And he was trying to ties to these nations. It says that prepare war, wake up the mighty men and all men who will Israel. Also, we have all men who will Israel. This is chapter 3, verse 10. It says, beat your plowshares and swords and plentiful and spears, and let them be some strong, like somebody be some strong. These are armies of the nations, so this will be seen. And this is Matthew, the 24th chapter. I'm going to start at verse 3. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 3 reads. It says, and as he sat down upon the Mount of Olives, and the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when should these things be? When should the sign of thy coming on the end of the world? Right, just like the disciples of Yahushua asked him that question. When should these things be? When should the sign coming on the end of the world? This is Matthew 24, verse 4, the only begotten. This is Slocky for that phone call. Matthew chapter 24, verse 4, it says, Yahushua answered and said to them, it says, Yahushua answered and said to them, take heed of your ways. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 5, it says, when shall come and say, Yahushua should say me. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. It says, right, so we see these wars and rumors of wars we got to see contracts over. And I think it was yesterday we had North Korea. They fired off some more missiles. This is like the third time within the last week and a half, 2 weeks now, about North Korea fired off their missiles. They've been doing this consistently for the past 7+ years. And then over in the eastern shores of Japan, they're playing a missile. Now, Donald Trump was talking about we're supposed to have some talks about Kim Jong-un late this year. I mean, later on this year. But it was a news article that came out. I think it was from CNN. Now, of course, we ain't going to believe everything on CNN mentioned, but they mentioned that North Korea, they was talking about Donald Trump has withdrawn from his army troops over there in the Korean Peninsula. And then Korea said that didn't have no effect. So they really didn't care about it because the Koreans, armies, they said they still got tensions against South Korea and Japan. So that lets you know tensions are only still escalating between North Korea versus South Korea, Japan, and the United States. So these are signs that the wars are almost I said we spoke about 2,000 years ago. That's for sure. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. I think North Korea fired off like multiple missiles already. Eastern shores of Japan, they've been out the about a couple of years and as of recently. That's why they've been doing this overseas tours just in case they come in from North Korea. That's why that's your tensions are really heating up between North Korea and Japan and South Korea. This is Matthew chapter 24, verse 7. It says, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. This goes into other heavens. It says, there shall be famines and pestilence, and earthquakes in all these places. So this is 24. This is book about 21 verse 10, like more things to come. Book 21 verse 10 reads, it says, then say he unto them, nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. Right, so that's what we see in our world today. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. Even though it's been up and down, back and forth, like the generations now, we see pushing forward this kingdom. So like I mentioned again, economic wars, nuclear wars between these nations. So that's something that will take place. So the Russia versus Ukraine situation, that's something going to intensify. You got NATO versus NATO and European Union versus Belarus and Russia. That's going to continue to increase. Pakistan versus Afghanistan. That's still going to continue to increase. Tensions heating up over there in Sudan, South Sudan. Tensions are still heating up over there. Southeast Asia, I think, in that area, and all these different nuclear investigations and tensions continue to heat up. And so Russia versus the United States, so that's going to heat back up as well too. And then you still have the alliance between China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, it's the Western countries. Because you had a lot of groups a couple of days ago, he was saying that the United States, Western countries, continue to that's what they're going to So that's what that's it. That's the story. Was able to have intentions to pass outside of the 2026 of the Black Sea. His tensions were heating up versus Russia. Versus Russia. That's been heating up. It says, it says, making sure hit on wars and emotions. So that's what we see in our wars and emotions. It says, be not terrified of these things that first come to pass. It says, read that again. When you should hear on wars and emotions, be not terrified of these things must first come to pass. And let the hand is not about anybody. Right? So on a day-to-day basis, even though it's been going down back and forth like a balance scale, we have these wars and emotions between these armies and our nations in multiple different categories. So it's going to come to pass, but not going to interest yet. So this is Revelations 11 verse 14. Going to close out. I know I said I was going to close out. Bring out some more scriptures for edification's sake. So bring out about two more scriptures. This is the book of Revelations, chapter 9, verse 12. It says, one will pass, behold, there come two will say after. Right, so one will pass, behold, there come two will say that after. It says, Revelations 11, verse 14, it says, the second will pass, behold, there come. Right, so the second will pass, behold, there come. I think it's a news article that saying it's still continuing to retaliate drone strikes. I think it was like 700 plus drone strikes that hit over the South. So I let you know this estimate between Russia and Ukraine. And they entering like the 5th year of this war. So it's only going to intensify. This is Ezekiel chapter 30, verse 4. It says, I will tell you that it's like Charles, and I will bring you forth from all our own because all of them forth from all sorts of all of them shields all their swords. Right, so that you know it's indicating that the God's going to continue to put the next charge of the Russians rise against the adversaries, the Ukrainian armies, and their allies as well too, and the European Union and NATO as well too. This is Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5. It says Persia. Right, because I remember, I think it was like last month, you had the Ukrainians, they had targeted an Iranian oil tanker ship. And then Iran, they weren't recognized for that. It said even though the Ukrainians, they had apologized to the Iranians, but the Iranians, they still weren't recognized for that. And so that lets you know the tensions are heating up between these armies of other nations. This is Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 5. It says Persia, which is Iran, Libya, Libya, I believe, within the past 2 weeks, they got hit by drone strikes and missile strikes. Because you got Russia, they got military bases. It's like Russia and I said Russia and Iran. Russia and Turkey. They got military bases over in Iraq and Syria too. So that lets you know that's an indicator. This is Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 6. It says that Roman, which is not in Turkey, his man's house in order. Roman, which is not in Turkey, his man's house in Turkey, but the work order, so his man's going to be with him. Right, this makes perfect sense because I think that we have the Israel Defense Force using airstrike over in Turkey. That's what I said previously. And then they supposedly, I think Israeli intel military, they had more information about the petition of the president of Turkey. I petition might send some troops over in Syria. So that, that's an indicator that even though Turkey is part of NATO, but you still been seeing potentially signs might increase between the Turkish armies and the Israeli armies. So that might heat back up once again. Now, after this incident took place the day before yesterday, after an airstrike from the Israelis on a military base over there in Syria, because Turkey, they got military bases over there as well too. This is Ezekiel chapter 38, verse 7. It says, be thou prepared for thyself and all thy companies that are something unto thee, and be thou a guard to them. So Russia is going to be a guard to these nations, Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, and Turkey. That's going to lead into the Northern World. We're seeing signs of it. So this was just a outside lesson that I want to work out for the second time on the Matthews 24:7. It's a time outside lesson for the second time. That's to assist us. So hopefully this is a that might be a lot of this. So I should any information names and make names and names and shit. I said right now, so next time I'm saying,